You're listening to the Imprint Podcast. I'm your host, Micah, and today's episode is titled Order of Love, and this poem is written by me. In order to be in love with someone else, you have to fall in love first with yourself. In order to love yourself, you have to first know yourself. In order to know yourself, you have to know who you are in God. And to know God is to know His ways, to love Him as He loves us. Then, and only then, will you be able to truly be able to love. Short and sweet, to the point. I wrote this March 14th of 2018, and I vaguely remember writing this, and I can tell that my state of mind was kind of like in a self-reflection and trying to figure out, if I'm going to be in a relationship, what do I need to do first? Which is fair. I mean, it was 2018, so I had graduated high school just a couple years prior. And, usually after high school, you get into college and you feel like, okay, this is where life is supposed to start. I'm supposed to be in a relationship and, growing up. And I think through this, I was kind of just speaking to myself and telling myself, like, you can't expect to be in a relationship and love someone else if you can't take the necessary steps to loving yourself. And not just saying like, oh, I love the way I look, or I love my hair, and that's enough, but loving the ugly parts and loving the parts you hide and the parts you don't talk about. That is what true love to yourself means. And I can't be wanting to love the ugly parts or the unseen parts of somebody else if I can't do it for me. That is kind of the headspace I was in and the reflective state I was in when I was writing this. So the first stanza says, in order to be in love with someone else, you have to fall in love first with yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to be willing to say, I am this way, I think this way, I look like this, I feel like this, and I'm going to love myself anyway. I'm going to give myself grace. I'm going to work on the things that are hardest to love about me. I'm going to depend on God to show me and reveal to me and kind of just make me uncomfortable sitting with the things I don't like about myself until I can learn to love me anyway. And that is a hard prayer to pray. That is a hard journey to embark on. But until you can master that, you cannot be with anyone else in a healthy way. The second stanza says, in order to love yourself, you have to first know yourself. So who are you? And it's not a question that should be answered as if you were on a first date and they're asking you, so tell me about yourself. It's a question that you're supposed to really dig deep and think of, who am I? What is my identity? And the next stanza says, in order to know yourself, you have to know who you are in God. God is the one who gives you your identity. And it's much more than the surface answers that we give. Oh, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a teacher, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm a student. It's more than that. Like, who has God called you to be? And what about yourself is preventing you from being who God called you to be? And how can you love yourself through that anyway? Those are the riveting questions that need to be explored first and answered first before you can say, this is who I am and I love myself because this is who God made me to be. And then the next stanza says, and to know God is to know His ways, to love Him as He loves us. So this is kind of a pattern so far, and it's kind of going backwards because it's answering unwritten questions in the poem. So like, obviously I didn't ask the question, how do I love myself? But I answered that question within the poem. So it's like the first stanza says, in order to be in love with someone, you have to fall in love with yourself. Okay, how do I fall in love with myself? Well, in order to do that, you have to know yourself. And the unwritten question is, okay, how do I get to know myself? And then the answer is, in order to know yourself, you have to know who you are in God. And then, so that's just showing like all of the questions we have in our mind that we don't really ask or we don't feel comfortable to ask. And God is answering them through his word and through who he is. Before we can even form the question, like he's already given us the answer. And so if we know God and we know his ways by reading the Bible and spending time with him, we'll be able to love others as he loves us. We'll be able to love him as he loves us. And then, like the last stanza says, then and only then will you truly be able to love. You know, there are so many different definitions and philosophies about love and acceptance and being in love. And I feel like the most important one, and the only one we should be focused on, is how God wants us to love. How he loves us. And we can't even begin to think about inviting another person into our lives to love at that capacity if we can't even love ourselves at that capacity. So it's so important to know who you are, accepting all your flaws, accepting all your shortcomings, knowing that I am going to work on them, I am going to take that step, but first I'm going to say I love myself for who I am, and I love the imperfections that have been placed on me. I love the shortcomings that have been placed on me, because they're what make me me. And you have to think ahead of time and know that in the end, I will overcome all of these insecurities. I will overcome all of these shortcomings. It kind of put into perspective for me, like I want to be in love, but I have so far to go with myself. You know, I can't give something to somebody that I don't have myself. You know, that is basically the message in this piece of writing, you know. And so why is this type of writing important, and how can we learn from it? I think that this is important because self-love is much more than just what we see in the mirror. Sometimes you will have to get personal with God and say, hey God, like this is just something that I don't like about myself. Show me what to do. Show me how to fix this or love it and leave it alone. You know, it's very hard, especially when society and people on the outside are telling us you need to look this way as a female. You need to be like this as a male. God is like, we're so far removed from what love really is, and we're taking all of this face value stuff and then we're damaging ourselves because we want to be seen a certain way at face value. And it's like, you can look the part. You can go and get the surgery. You can go and put the makeup on. You can go and, you know, push yourself to look a certain way, but still have all this damage and this hurt on the inside because you're not starting within yourself first. And it's like, once you begin to do the work on the inside and love yourself from the inside, it will show on the outside. You'll be able to comfortably say, I can go to the gym and not be insecure and create a better lifestyle for myself and do it for me and not because society told me to. And that's just me speaking about myself. The other day I was on Snapchat and I was scrolling through my memories, and there was some that popped up about when I was consistently in the gym, and I looked a lot different than I do now. And I was like, dang, like I wish I could just wake up and look like that again, you know. And I started looking at myself and kind of just judging myself and feeling down and ashamed. And self-love is being able to say, I still love myself despite the way that I look. And I love myself enough to make a healthy change. And so I decided I'm just going to go back to the gym. But not because I hate myself or I hate the way I look or I hate this. It's because I love myself enough to want to be healthy. I love myself enough to want to be a healthier version of myself. And seeing that gave me a sense of hope to know I am able to do that because it's been done already. It's been done before. I just need to do it again. And, I feel like that's what self-love is. It's not wishing that I wish I could be like them. It's not loving what you see at the moment. Self-love is being able to take the things that you don't like and change them for the better for yourself, and not being influenced by negativity or doing things just because I wish I had that. And, once you're able to regulate in your mind, I love myself, I accept myself, I am who I am because God made me who I am and He loves me. That's the only way that you'll be able to truly love and appreciate someone else and bring someone else into your life and treat them with the same amount of love and acceptance. And the beautiful thing about this whole thing is we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have everything all together in order to be loved by God. He takes us as we are. He takes us with all of our shame and all of our hurt. And He shows us how to love ourselves. He shows us how to accept ourselves. And I find comfort in knowing that no matter what, if I can just fix my eyes on God, He will be enough for me. He will fulfill my needs. He will show me how to fix the imperfections that are changeable, and I just maybe don't have the ways and know how to do it. And just knowing that I can go to Him in prayer and ask Him to show me things is comforting enough to know that even on days where it is hard to say I love myself, I can see myself how God sees me and love that about myself. Knowing God and who He is and knowing that He is love is something that we all have to know and understand. And once we know and understand that and apply it to ourselves, we'll find ourselves being a little bit more kinder to ourselves. We'll find ourselves being a little bit more gracious and loving towards ourselves. So I think this is all important, especially at this time of the year where everybody is, talking about love and Valentine's Day and all of that. It's important to know that we first need to love ourselves and love what God has created. Because at the end of the day, we would not be here if He did not want us to be here. And that alone is enough to say, I love the creation that God has created me to be. Because He decided to put me on the earth at this time and love me enough to keep me alive and love me enough to allow me to see another day and to be me and to work with me on the things that I may not like or I may not love. And so that is all that I have for today. I hope that you enjoyed this written piece of the journey, and I hope that I can inspire you to write your own. And I will talk to you in the next episode.